Hello, Charlie TCG here. Welcome back to my channel. We're just a few days away from NAIC, which is looking like it's going to be the biggest tournament of the year in our sort of season. So, what's the best way to do this is looking at what I think are the top 8 competitive decks to play at NAIC. Now, these are obviously the decks which I think are going to see the most play, the ones that generally have seen the most of success online, as well as also over in Japan as well, and definitely having a huge sort of promising scene on the online scene as well. So if you're still on the fence about not knowing what to play, or generally curious to see what exactly decks which I think will pop up the most and have the biggest meta share, this is definitely a great video for you. So, without further ado, let's jump right into video. Now, my number 8 pick does go to Ethan's Typhlosion. Now, I love this deck. But in fact, on a City League meta share, wasn't as powerful as people want. What it is, didn't have a great sort of placement at the Champions League, but obviously had multiple City League wins and about a 3% meta deck. And online, it's has a 46% win rate, which is definitely a little bit low on some of a top sort of contender, but obviously it's very, very high ranking. It's a very, very popular archetype. Looking at matchup as well, you kind of like see that as well. The only downside is it have a really poor matchup against what I think are the top 3 archetypes, Dragapult, Grimmsnarl, and Gardevoir. That being said, I think it's a very, very powerful archetype. It's a single prizer which can do 280 damage if you've got 4 of Ethan's Adventure in your discard pile. Obviously, the partner as well, it's so difficult to know exactly what to pick with Typhlosion, and I've kind of gone with having Dracloak as the best answer. There's been like the Dunsparce, there's been Pidgeot, there's been Charizard, there's been everything under the sun. But I think Dracloak is great, giving it a really good draw engine, exactly what this deck needs to have. Now, in theory, you could obviously have the likes of Luminous Energy and a Dragapult, and then have that as a clear and upgrade attack in the end game. But what makes this deck work so well is by being a single pricer, and Dracloak really has that answer for that really good sort of draw engine. It's always going to be on the board as well. Potentially, you could threaten them with that and Dragapult as well. They might target that instead of having your Typhlosions. On a secret box at the ace spec, I could kind of argue between if you should have secret box or should you have like some mixing belt. As we were playing here, like get Kieran, Defiance Belt, and Gravity Mountain, they have multiple ways to reduce sort of the HP or do additional more damage factors. So I don't think the secret box is great to have that setup effect. And obviously our team ball ticket is the only way how we can interact with our prize cards, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. So we can get out Ethan's Adventure. I think this is very powerful. It's one of the best single prize archetypes in such a long time. Has a really good source synergy. I really hope it has a good deep run. Now, my number 7 pick goes to Jolty Box. This is a deck which definitely kind of like from really well from the Jones Scale format, and I feel like it's going to continue to go really well. Now, in Jones Scale format, it got best placement was a top 4, and its meta share was about an 8% overall. It was a very, very powerful deck. Now, online right now, it's about the 7th most popular with a win rate of 51%. It is so powerful as we have so many good sort of stage 2 evolving sword decks, which are doing very, very well in the high placing metagame, which works incredibly well for Iron Hands, being that very aggressive sort of play, especially on your second turn, but having that Amki very much taking multiple prizes. And we can see it's win right here. It's doing really well. It struggles against Typhlosion, but they don't have a good way to easily sometimes one hit KO you back. But I think overall the deck is really, really strong. If I look at some new cards to add, maybe like the Team Rocket's Petrol, I think is good, so we can guarantee get any sort of trainer card we might want to have. I think the Watchtower is good to have that sort of limitation as well, slowing down sort of the Pokemon which relies on colors like Pidgeotos, the Power Engine, the EV deck, all those sort of deck. I think it's great just to slow them down. I think Iron Leads is great, especially right now in the deck. If we're seeing Grimmsnarl kind of be like one of the most popular archetypes, and Charizard is still kind of roaming around, is a very, very strong contender. I think Iron Leash is great as well. We're in a format as well where lots of more just could be coming around. So Iron Leash to kind of like move her out of the way. If move any of your Pokemon into the active spot, you can retreat with Latias. I think it's really powerful. Overall, I think this deck is in a very good poised position right now in the NAIC metagame. Hasn't really changed too much, but it gains some great sort of synergy right now in the metagame, especially with our Iron Hand. Thank you very much. Now, remember, 6 box goes to Eevee box. So Flareon, the Sylveon, the Umbreon, the whole evolution line, I think is very, very powerful. And we saw it do really well over in the Journey Together format. But definitely kind of deck which, again, like the Jolty box, really kind of picked up steam. There was a lot of good synergy throughout this one. It became the replacement of Terra Box. Matchup wise, I would say it's also in a pretty good spot. Have a decent sort of match against most of the powerful sort of archetypes. Struggle against the likes of Jolty box, as you may not have a good way, and obviously they can really capitalize on the Iron Hands constantly, turn after turn after turn, and constantly chain them, which can be a little bit tricky to kind of go with this one. And it's a deck which doesn't really kind of like strapping around the likes of Angelite. If we look right now in the format, I think we're in a perfect position where Angelite is incredibly strong. With some decks like Dragapult, Grimmsnarl, as well as also Gardevoir, decks which really rely on having a larger sort of board set and potentially only 2 of the main sort of attackers we might want to have to offer. So that's where Angelite becomes incredibly scary overall in the deck. Now here I have gone light of Leafeon EX, because obviously we're seeing lots of Grimmsnarl. We want to have an instant answer for this one, and this deck works really well. Now all of a sudden we have an answer to the Dragapults, the Raging Bolts with the Clefairy. Now we can have the likes of the Leafeon, the answer for the Grimmsnarl, the Charizard, and Zoroark. Now we're in a format now which is going to be playing lots of Team Rocket's Watchtower, and I think this deck really struggles against this one. So I've got a few counters to this one. Now you might go away for this one. I have added that Shimpao. I think that Shimpao with that Snowy Sling, when you play it down, discard a stadium card, I think is really powerful. Just instantly go over it around this one. Yes, you are taking away that bench step phase, but that could be really powerful. You could do this one and evolve into a knocked out and then get another sort of bench larger on with that Area Zero under depth and then go from there. That's why I've gone for 3 copies of Area Zero, just a little bit higher than you normally have. But overall, I think this is a very sort of good position deck right now in the meta game. There are definitely some changes around this one, and be much more careful about that Team Rocket's Watchtower. So if I was playing it on the weekend, definitely be thinking more about what kind of stadium count, or do I have any way to answer to get rid of stadium cards outside of having like a Shimpao or Area Zero under depth. Number 6 goes to Raging Bolt, and lots of people did talk about on my Distant Rivals when I first did this one. I said, where is Raging Bolt? And I said, place for a Charizard because I think it positions really well in the meta game. But overall, looking at the format right now, I think Raging Bolt is in a very good spot. Obviously, it did get a win over Endurance Together, and I had a very high meta share constantly in other tournaments. It's a very powerful beat stick archetype. It was between either like Raging Bolt and Joltik, which was like the best sort of beat stick deck to kind of go around this one. So online, it's had a good sort of win rate, as well as also a good sort of position right now, being the 3rd most popular. And again, looking at meta share, its only real bad matchup is that Eevee box. The rest of it, I think, is in a really good sort of spot. Now, looking at some new cards it really has to offer, again, there isn't that many cards it really had. Now, one thing I have changed about with this and Raging Bolt is kind of like you be more careful about when you are using that baby Raging Bolt. Most decks will now be playing Shaman, so gone are the days where you can actually just guarantee you can just instantly Thunderblast, Storm, and they're kind of like taking easy sort of KO that sort of way. So you've got to be careful when you go to play this one. But also your deck which relies on like Knockdown. So I've upped up the CM card as well. You normally play about like 2 or 3. So kind of going up to 4. You're always sort of trying to like win that war with the CM war if it's kind of going around this one. That's kind of why I've gone with the likes of having a 2 jamming tower, 2 areas of undepth, which I just think is really strong. If you are worried about potentially some like trapping sort of plays or generally ways to get more energy, you can find a way to add in that extra crispin as well for Raging Bolt. Still think this deck is very powerful, very strong, and definitely going to be one. You're going to be facing at least 1 or 2 of them with Raging Bolt. Sorry, at NAIC, because Raging Bolt is always going to be up at the top sort of tables, being the most popular deck at the day. Now, number 4 goes to Golden Go, and deck which kind of like fell from my radar. Of kind of like didn't really think about how powerful it is, but overall, I've kind of like come around to this one. I think it's in a really good spot right now. In the Joker format, it wasn't really to be. It kind of picked up steam a little bit at the end of the format, being best placement, really being a top 16 and having like a 5% meta share. But online, we can see here it's ranked 12, so not exactly too popular, and win rate being about 55%. So it's in a good sort of place right now. If we look at the metagame, again, it's had a pretty decent matchup against most of the 4, whether even to better on most of the good sort of matchup. And only can really struggle decks like a Typhlosion. Obviously, Typhlosion has a terrible matchup. The single prize archetype which hits you for weakness, and you need to discard 4 energies to KO this one. It can be very tricky when they constantly go around this one. Now, the partner I've gone with this one is again having that Dragapult, and I think that is the best way. And lots of people are seeing this one. This deck is one of the best decks for having it as best sort of draw factors right now in the game. Having that coin bonus, but also have Recon Directive. Effectively, if you have all your 4 Golden Goes and 2 Dragapults, which sort of Dracloaks could be seen out there, you're effectively seeing a ton of cards, over 10 cards every single turn. Yes, you've got to draw in a lot of things. So that's where likes of Cypher Mania's Code Breaking is great sort of synergy in this deck. Now, again, there isn't too many new cards that really had to offer. Picnic Basket is great against the Dragapults because they want to spread lots of damage counters around this one. Having this plus Monkey Dory, you can effectively clean out a Golden Bay, which will have like 6 damage counters on it anyway. So I think that's in a really good spot as well. Having that 1 Cooper Dragapult is a good sort of cleaning attacker at the end. If you make it rain, don't really get multiple KOs. So you can just go the Phantom Dive, take that good sort of clean KOs at the end. I think Golden Go is in a great sort of spot. It's in a really poised position to do a quite deep run at NAIC. Now going to number 3, we do have Gardevoir, not full from grace, but a deck which has been incredibly consistently good. Deck which a lot of people, including myself, kind of wrote off in the JTK format, and it really took it back, getting 6 first places. That's so many wins. I think I looked at it as well. The ones that didn't win, obviously, it was even in the finals. So after 8 sort of big majors, it was nearly every single final. So Gardevoir is up there as one of the best decks right now. Has a very impressive win rate of 50%. That's definitely the 2nd most played archetype as well. And again, looking at the matchup spread here, it is incredibly powerful. The only really bad matchup is Grimmsnarl, which makes a lot of sense. Grimmsnarl hits you for weakness, and Frosthurst with you can like spread loads of damage counters on this one. Yes, you have the Monkey Dory to move around, but they also have Monkey Dory and they can put more damage counters and actually put on a lot of pressure. So I think Gardevoir is in a very good sort of position, and this I feel like is the build I would play. And it's not really adding any sort of new cards. I would say kind of like go similar to like the Henry Chow sort of build, and kind of like change it just a tiny bit. Go over the Technical Machine Evolution, the secret box, having that one copy of Shaman because you want to run the potential guys. I just think this is the best way to play Gardevoir. Going 3 Monkey Dories because if we're seeing lots of Frost slash Monkey Dory and Growth decks, you want to have the response, so like moving around the damage counters. So effectively, it's not going to always be building up this one. Hopefully, you could win the Monkey Dory sort of race right now in this new exciting format. So again, I just think this is a very, very good poise deck to play with. But the reason I put it third is because that second place, Marnie's Grimmsnarl, a deck which has kind of seen a lot of success right now and one of the most of hypes right now. Online, it is the best sort of position right now with the most popular archetype with a very, very impressive win rate of 53%. For a new archetype to have this high of a win rate, especially on the rank 1, is really, really powerful. And if you look at the City League meta share, after that one appearance on the Champions League on day 2, over it back in April, it is in skyrocketed. It got a top 8 placement and it had 2 top 16 with the exact same lists. It's such a powerful deck right now, and the matchups really speak for itself. Look how powerful it is. This worst matchup right now is Golden Goat and Raging Bolt. Golden Go draws for a lot of stuff. You can't really easily one-hit KO this when they can constantly one-hit KO you back. It's a very, very scary deck. And same thing with Raging Bolt as well. You can really struggle with these beat steam style decks. And I think if you want to play the best deck, play the top 16 list from Champions League. There is not really that much change around it. I fiddle around with this deck, but it is just such a perfect sort of list. It works incredibly well. You don't need to use the Grimmsnarl when you need to, and we have it in the mirror match. It's all about who attacks first. You want to be doing that passing, spread around lots of damage counters, and eventually get the big sort of cleanup attack at the end. This is how this deck works. This is how spread, and we haven't had a good spread deck in such a long time. Yes, I know, obviously, the Monkey Dory and Frostlass deck, it's not new. It won the Champions League in Japan back over in like January, February time. So we know how powerful this deck is. It's so nice to see the refreshing take. It's nice to see spread finally be back at the top of the table with a very interesting style of the owner sort of format. And I just think it's a very, very powerful deck. And finally, the number 1 pick is, of course, Dragapult. There is no surprise whatsoever, but I think this is the perfect time for Dragapult Dustin 1. I know I've been the person who calls sheep. I've been saying Dragapult is the best deck in nearly every single video I do of these breakdowns, but I just think it is so good. The Joe together got a first place. It was always consistently the most popular archetype. Online right now, the Dragapult Dustin variant is ranking 9th, one has a 50% win rate. But if you look at the matchup spread about what I think of the top decks, it is not really that appealing. You might look at it and go, why, Charlie, why on earth you put it to the top? Why not having the Grimmsnarl deck? Why not having Gardevoir? Because with the right pilot on Dragapult, this deck is absolutely incredible. The reason why I think Dusclops is perfect right now, because we're in a format with lots of Monkey Dory, lots of damage spreading damage around this one, and Monkey Dory pinging around this one, this is where Dusclops works in incredibly well. You want to be taking these multiple KOs, and that's exactly where this deck works in to have to offer. High counts of Nut Stretcher means we can have a high count of if you gain the Dusclops Dust Noir going around this one. Lots of the format is built around lots of synergies, those around item cards. So again, Buddy is great to slow it down. Having the Team Rockets Watchtower, and that's our main stadium of choice. We want to slow down these archetypes, slow down the likes of the Eevee boxes, slow down the likes of Raging Bolt, slow down any decks like which will rely on these colorless Pokemon abilities. For example, like even Cyphlosion. Are we go play the Dunsparce? I would play Bidrop. Well, if you play Team Rockets Watchtower, it's very, very difficult for them to actually draw out the deck. I just think this is the best poised deck right now in this format. Yes, of course, we're only a few days away. By the time this video is released, we've got 3 days and then we've got NAIC. So we're going to see exactly how the format is going to develop. I really think this is the best build of Dragapult right now. We can see the Crystal. I think it's really strong. Yes or no, we're going to see some Jamming Tower, but we play high counts of Supporter cards to draw into certain archetypes. But yeah, I really, really love this deck right now going to the new format. So that wraps up my end of my NAIC sort of top sort of decks in this new sort of format. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are any of these decks I put a little bit too high, or some of the decks which are kind of missing? Do you think the decks like some of the Cynthia's Garchomp or the Mewtwo build will actually have a much stronger sort of success than the likes of an Ether version? Or do you think Marnie's Grimmsnarl is just the BDAF right now? We came off Gardevoir, could we see Grimmsnarl, which is again really exciting. Oh, I just hope Dragapult does have do well. I think it's the best position to be in such a long time. So we can see exactly how it is poised right now. So hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hopefully you have a great NAIC if you're there. I can't wait to talk about this in the next few weeks. So I'll see you guys later. For now.